Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Second Act Actors. I'm your host, Dr. Janet McMordie, and I'm still a medical doctor simultaneously trying to pursue a career in acting. My guest this week is my good friend, Chai Valladares. He was always an actor, but did a degree in anthropology, so comes from a very unique educational background. We kind of touch a little bit on this about how that degree has helped him with his acting career. He has an incredible story to tell. One of the things that struck me the most about this conversation that is just a fascinating topic was how he noticed his auditions change when he started balding and made the decision to shave his head. I won't go into any more details than that because you're going to hear him talk about this, but it is absolutely fascinating. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you to hear his story. Please enjoy the wonderful and hilarious Dungeon Master himself. That's a D&D reference. Chai Valladares.
I watched a short little video about like the hobbits in the Hobbit, the dwarves in the Hobbit, and how the practical effects, like their boots. First of all, they had like what do you call it, like a skin suit for their calves, because like dwarven calves apparently, like a normal human calves maybe like this big or something. Dwarf calves are like this big. And then they went into boots that were like size 15 for these like 5'7" guys. And they were weighted, so naturally the weight of that prop or that costume piece made them like naturally like lower their frame, made them more grounded to the earth, made them ensure that they didn't lift their knees too high, like we might do, with our muscle mass and stuff. And it gave like a real feel, like the way they moved was much more dwarven.
That gives me like my hair standing on end. That gets me so excited about what we do, not just as actors, but as like creators in the entertainment space. That there are people on this planet who are like, nobody would know what they're doing, but it globally makes the project better. And it's funny you're saying that about like that for the dwarves. I remember I had an actress on who was in The Handmaid's Tale, and they were one of the handmaids, and the weight of that red cloak, they chose a fabric that was so heavy that they naturally couldn't do anything else but slump their shoulders over. And so it became part of the movement of the character. And you're like,
like the meta, like the intangible, or well, let's say overall oppressiveness of the regime of Gilead becoming like manifesting tangibly in like a very heavy
and like just hearing about little things like that. Again, I've said this so many times on this podcast about how this is like the greatest group project ever, like making something. And for the most part, I mean, there are rotten eggs in every industry. But for the most part, all these people coming together, especially if it's a nice big budget project, for the most, well, as a caveat, not the biggest budgets ever, because those movies usually turned out like crap. But like a medium budget where you have to kind of pull up your bootstraps a little bit and be a bit more inventive, but enough money to feel like I'm getting paid for my craft. Like everyone is contributing. And there's nobody there being like, I'm just here for the easy A. Like, it just makes me so happy.
Exactly. Yes, it's the passion, the care. That's what got me into acting.
Yeah.
That's what like brought me here, because being part of a group project and seeing, first of all, I recently discovered too, I was having a conversation with a family friend, that I want my work to have immediate rewards like occurring in front of me. So I like to build a lot of like IKEA furniture and fix things or small things around the house and stuff. But like if I had a side gig or not a side gig, but like if acting didn't exist in reality, it would be really cool to like work on like in a shipyard, like fixing things, because I like the immediacy of like my work. And I think acting does that for me. It's like I can hear and see and feel a scene coming together, whether it just be me memorizing lines or me like connecting with my scene partner, or hearing notes from the director, or getting like a new prop in from the props master, and being like, oh, okay, we're gonna be having this kind of sandwich in my hand when I say scene or whatever it is, right? And yeah, to kind of see it all coming together, and to be able to see that happen on different levels, where it's like the electricians, or it's the sound guys, or it's the like carpenters, or the director, or like or even like the script supervisor being like, or we're changing this around, or I just want to confirm that this is what we're saying, or just let you know that this is actually the way the line is, and just having those pieces all come together, and the immediacy of that, I think, is very fulfilling. Like you see how the machine is built in real time, like one of those like videos where you're like, they like just have the wheels float in on the car on the side on the axles and all that jazz, and you kind of see it being constructed in front of you. That's the feeling that I really, really enjoy. And then multiplying it by like the tens or sometimes even hundreds of people on set, depending on the production. Yeah.
Did you always want to be an actor? Tell me your story. Tell me about your childhood.
Yeah. So according to my mom, before I installed a good hardware memory case in my head, because I forgot about this, but she was like, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be an actor, and I wanted to be a cowboy, because apparently all I'd say is, every time we'd have family friends over, and every time someone would talk to me, I'd just go cow. That's all I'd say over and over again, because I couldn't say cowboy, so it's okay. And then time went on, and as a kid, I was just too present to sort of care about what to do in the future, enjoying time with my toys and stuff. And then we get to high school, and in high school, I wanted to. The first thing I remember wanting to be was a photographer for National Geographic. And then it got to, I wanted to be a drummer. Which I am. I mean, I am a drummer, but I wanted to like professionally be a drummer. And then finally in my last year of high school, I was in Romeo and Juliet. I played Tybalt. It was a musical. I did not sing because I don't think I'm a great singer, but I got some great villainous, like it's Shakespeare, right? So a villain is a great villain. The dialogue is so fantastic, and so I got to revel in that. But in the backstage, after spoilers, after Tybalt gets killed by Romeo, what has it been, like 500 years? I think we're okay with spoilers. So, he 500 years, and in every English past in existence. So I'd go backstage and I'd sing, like they put 90s, early 2000s like rock and pop songs in the midst of the verse, like speaking. So we wouldn't sing the verse, I think, which is good in my opinion. But in the midst of it, it would suddenly cut into, like, for example, the "What Light from Yonder Window Breaks" scene. Before that scene happens, Romeo's down there waiting, watching the window, and he starts singing "She's So High" by Tal Bachman. And we're all in the backstage behind the curtain, and that really awesome chorus that just invites you all to sing, where they're belting out, "She's so high." I'm not gonna sing it.
So lovely.
Yeah, exactly. And there was so much camaraderie there. I had I made there were people that were part of that production that were already my friends, but I think our friendship strengthened. Like the bond grew. There were the guy who played Mercutio and me are still really good friends to this day. We talk a lot. We hang out at least once a week, if we can. And I think that, like, I guess it tapped into like really, really baby cowboy Chai, like really young Chai, and it awoke that again. And so I was like, okay, I think I want to do this. And so it changed. I was going to go into like peace and conflict studies in university, either Waterloo or U of T. And it changed that around. I went into, and this is not for the first time that this sudden change has happened, because I was initially going to go peace and conflict studies. Then I switched to theater because I loved it. And my dad was a theater director in India. My mom was an actor in India. And so for a short period of their careers, and so they understood. So they were open-minded. So I don't have the typical Indian story of like parents that want me to become like an engineer
Yep, that
or
first
lawyer or
gen
something.
classic.
Yeah. And I guess I got lucky because they're extremely supportive. They always have been. And my dad's retired and he acts now too. So look at that. Yeah, and so then I switched to theater and with poli sci as my other major. Went to U of T. In my first year, we had to take like a science course for like non-science students, basically. And one of those courses was anthropology, which covered like biological anthropology and archaeology and stuff. And then I fell in love with anthropology because I loved like learning history and people, to acting people. And then of course history was always a huge love of mine. So then I switched again, got out of poli sci, moved to anthropology, and did a double major in theater and anthropology, where I'm at now. And I think with instead of a science focus, even though I did pretty well in biology in high school, but I went for more culture, human culture, awesome courses like anthropology of animals, which is like the history of human animal relationships throughout time. Really interesting courses like that. And I think it's really given me like a good understanding of how to see large groups of people. So if my character fits in with one group or another, I have a really nice way of like starting out asking certain questions about that group to find out more information, to understand what it's like to be part of that group. So nothing's gone to waste, thankfully, with my studies there. So it's like there was no previous act for me before coming to be an actor. But photography, and it was still a weird kind of circuitous route into like knowing what I wanted to do. And I do realize that, photographer for National Geographic, specifically wildlife, again, love animals, and then drummer, like, so it's always kind of being artistic. There's always been an artistic bent throughout all of that. And I think also the same through line of being able to see the fruits of my work that's like immediately being rewarded in the sense of like I can feel and see the creation happening in front of me. The final product might not be so immediate. It could be later on down the line. It could be years later, like when the editing of a film is done, or like a song or an album is released, like a couple of years later. But I'm getting feedback immediately from the process itself at whatever point I'm in. And I think that's what's important. So maybe immediacy of rewards is probably not the right term, but like constant immediate feedback and seeing it take shape and seeing it take form immediately in front of me, which is very important. Yeah.
How did you, after university, grow your career? Like, what does your career look like now? What do you do?
So, how did I grow my career after? That's a good question. Did a lot of free theater. Did a lot to pad that resume.
Oh, yeah.
So my career right now is I'm happy to say, very grateful to say, my career right now is pretty widespread. I've got a little bit of voiceover. I got a good chunk of theater. I've got a lot of film and TV recently. That's been the main focus for the past several years now. And within that, it's been a myriad of different different characters, because that's what I go for. So in terms of growing the career, yeah, there's a lot of like theater, doing it for free, just getting in the work done, being in the space, meeting people, talking to people, connecting with people, which has gotten me to where I am today. Because yeah, it is what there's certainly an element to that of like, hey, can you cry on command? I can't. That's a technique I want to learn. I want to be able to like push myself to those heights. But I can do other things, right? And so it is what you know. Are you good for this role because of the skill set you've shown that you have? But it's also, of course, it's who you know, right? As well. And have both, right? You don't say it's never what you know, it's who you know, or a diploma's not good for anything. It's just good to have.
Mm-hmm.
And then through there, because I met a lot of two great voice acting individuals. Anna Sani, who I call the queen of voiceover. She's the voice of Strawberry Shortcake and Star. She's wonderful, amazing. And Mike Kirby, who teaches at Humber. He runs VoiceWorks in Toronto, and has an amazing documentary narration voice, and is incredible in theater, because I got to see him perform live quite a bit in our classes. And we met, he came back to do his master's, and Anna and I were getting our bachelors, and so the three of us all met at the same time, and so now I've got a few inroads, into voiceover that I cashed in, and and they both are tremendous. First of all, they're lovely people, and they're also tremendously helpful and caring for their friends. And so I wouldn't be, where I am. I've done audiobooks because of them, cartoons, and so it's been great. Yeah. So there was the free theater, there was making these connections, there was and then of course you shop for your agent, which was the scary part. And that worked out well. Butler Rustin Bell is my first agent. Love them, still do, and I hope they're all doing well. I know that the agents, they have all retired now, so I hope they're all really doing well. And but they really got me going. Answered a lot of my questions about the industry, picked me up when I was uncertain and had fallen down and like so confused about what was going on. And every time, there were times when I felt momentum building, and then something would happen where it just stopped. Like, a big one was COVID, right? And I feel like a lot of actors can probably associate with that. And so I'd build it, and then just shut down by something. And it's like, dang, what is going on? And they were there. They picked me up. It's what a good agent does, right? And I'm happy to say some of my agents since then have been fantastic. And my agent that I currently have, Penny Noble, also in the same boat, fantastic. Since then too. So a couple of years ago, another big scary thing that happened was that I was balding, so I decided to shave my head. And I was like, let's do it, committed to it, really. And what was scary about it is you don't know what's under the hair. You don't know how your head's shaped unless you've like shaved your head before. So you're kind of like, please don't, I don't want to look like an alien. Oh, I might be good for prosthetics. You never know, actually. But worked out. Decently shaped head. And so thank you, Mom and Dad, for the genetics and taking care of that head. And now it's at a point because of the way I've shaved my head. Before this, I felt like I looked like every other young South Asian guy, and I was going for a lot of like young professional, young lawyer, young doctor, that sort of thing, which was cool, which was awesome to do, and great to have those auditions and great to flex those muscles. But now that I've shaved my head, I have found that I've always actually really loved atypical male characters. So like Colin Farrell in The Penguin is such a classic atypical leading character, right? It's so atypical. Basically, if I can have half the career of Sam Rockwell, it's a success for me. I'll win. That's a big one, So it's like the guys who are just, there's something a little off about them. Not always in a bad way. They just don't follow standard convention all the time, whether it be in the way they speak to people, the way they do things, the way they think, or the way they perceive like problems that they're facing alongside everyone else. They've got a sort of like a view that's outside the box that like brings a bunch of color, and sometimes they'll take action on that view, and sometimes they won't, and that affects the story and the main characters and stuff like that. So and I think with the shaved head, it adds, like, it just brings more character, I find, to more of like a panache, maybe. I don't know. Everyone should shave their heads.
This is fascinating. And the reason why, and again, like, this has been a day of like visual artists that I've been talking to, right? And just that's so interesting because, again, I know we're in a visual medium, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But do you find that you now, when you didn't have your head shaved, you were more typecast, and now you can like take more risks because of the characters you're giving, and like, we don't know where to put this guy. Let's just see what he does, and you can be like, I can do whatever, and they're like, wow.
That's a great way of putting it. Yeah, like prior to this, I never had the variety of roles and the chance to take greater risks in what I could do in my auditions and my pitches, basically,
Yeah.
right? Because that's technically what an audition is. So now I've realized the way I look or the way I come across to some casting directors is like, just a couple of days ago, I auditioned for a Hallmark series. Awesome. a week before, 2 weeks before that, I was like a pretty brutal villain, working against the CIA. And I was like, this look is so variable right now.
Yeah.
Even though I can't style my hair in different ways, actually it works out. And like, I don't know what it is. And, or maybe it's not that the look changes. Maybe it's like, oh, he's kind of like more of a blank slate, and let's see how he decides to color it. Which that, like, the way you said it was great. Like, invites me to take risks, invites me to take chances, and invites me to like follow my gut, follow my instinct, and see what works and see what doesn't. But I did have to like spend some time and figure out like, how do I come across now? Does my quizzical face look more angry now that I've shaved my head, or like, because you shave your head and like maybe your eyebrows get focused on a lot more, and the movement of the eyebrows. I don't know, right? I don't know how people what they pick up on immediately, and that could change from individual to individual. Yeah. So, but I think maybe this is like a natural progression of an actor. We should all be taking risks. I mean, we live in a time now with self-tapes that we can do a second take and pitch it to them. Maybe send a different file if the scene is like a 5-pager plus, instead of it going all on one file, but and then let them know. But there's always a chance to be like, I want to do a fun one just for me.
Yeah.
Like, let's put aside the breakdown and the expectations, and let's see what excites me, and then if you feel confident in it, or if you just want to see where things go, send it off, and see what happens, because you could maybe completely change the look of and feel of a character by your imagination.
That's so interesting. And so, yeah, but it kind of leads into my next question about you've been in this industry for a while. Has there been anything that's been surprising to you?
Yeah. Okay. So one actually would be, and this is a very positive surprise. It's not as cutthroat as I expected it to be. And I think that might be the fault of just watching a lot of dramas, when coming into things, when getting out of high school, getting into university, and moving cities and stuff to the big apple, Toronto, big tomato. I don't know. Can't be an apple. That's taken. Big clementine.
Or some Canadian, right?
Yeah.
Maple tree.
The big maple tree. Oh, the big maple. Coming to the big maple. And I sort of set my expectations to that. And I think maybe initially I came across as maybe a bit defensive, unsure, and things. But now, as time has gone on, I've really sunk my teeth into various aspects of the industry, got to know a bunch of people. And the vast majority of people I've met have been, they want to work with you. They want to see you rise. And okay, there's a cynical side of me right now that's saying like, yeah, but if you rise, like, they'll rise too if they're working with you and stuff. And sure, that's great. Like, why not? If you're being risen up, then bend down and pull someone else up alongside you. Sure, there could be that hope there. But then, like, there's nothing wrong with that, because everyone does want to succeed. But it's the sort of like purposely undermining each other and stuff. I, knock on wood, I haven't really experienced that overtly. I mean, maybe it's happened, but I've just never had a whiff of it at all. I don't know, like, hopefully not. But yeah, those stories that you see on TV and stuff, you have to raise the stakes, because they have to be engaging stories for an audience, a completely detached audience to connect with. But I think people are generally quite good, as people. Like, they look out, your neighborhood kind of looks out for you and stuff like that, generally. And that kind of leaks into this industry, which is already difficult to begin with. So, I feel like a lot of people realize that, and we're also in the age of information, so experiences can be shared much easier now than they could in the past, right? And I think that's helping others to kind of come together and create communities. Um, and so far, yeah, the surprise has been that it's not as crazy, in that way. Of people like it's not as dog eat dog as I expected it to be. What about you? What about your? Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, well,
Or
it's interesting, and I've had this discussion, and this has been a sentiment that has been passed on from a lot of other guests, and from what I've heard from actors in the who are coming up in this industry. And the one thing I have heard, and I wonder what your thought is on this, is that is a Toronto, Vancouver sentiment. And or maybe like I've talked to actors in Europe, and it's very similar. Actors in Australia, very similar. LA and New York, not the case. Because they're like the big juggernauts where you as an actor can get away with being kind of a dick. Because where you can't in smaller industries that are trying to build. Because if you're not like a pleasant, happy to be there person who's trying to rise all boats, this is a small industry and people talk, people are going to be like, no, why would I ever want to invite you back? If you are that dog eat dog person, you're going to get booted out pretty quickly because people are like, why do I want that around? This is this tiny little Toronto industry that's trying to build. You can't build without the support and the cheerleading of others. When you're in a big city like LA and New York, where there are just so many people waiting in the wings to take your place, it's all actors who I've talked to there said, no, I have to dog eat dog. I have to be cutthroat. I'm like, ooh, that hurts my heart. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I don't know if you've heard the same.
I haven't heard the same. Mainly because I don't think I've asked that similar question. I've asked more like questions about what life is like in like New York. I mean, I've been to New York several times. But like LA, for example, it's always been like, what's life like? Because I'm more curious as to like, oh, if I go there, like, what do I have to be aware of and stuff. So the more the material things kind of. But this is interesting, and a thought came to mind while you were making those comments. I wonder if that attitude is because they have something that we as Canadians are always told that we should have too, which is the attitude of we belong here. Yes. Coming into production, Canadians are very much like, I'm so grateful to be here, and gratitude is great.
Yep.
Never lose that. Yep. But maybe that's all we hang on to is the gratitude, and we kind of maybe lose sight of the fact that, oh, we earned this, like we should be here. And maybe it's, I don't know, maybe the culture, or maybe these people, their view is reversed in LA and New York, where it's like there's not enough gratitude and too much. We do belong here. I don't know, but could be. But that's another. I just thought of like the duality of like an American actor and a Canadian actor, and that's one of the big things.
Well, and I think this is an issue because I think you can be grateful to be there, but also recognize that the production should be grateful to have you there. Right? Like you deserve to be there and deserve to be treated fairly and stuff like that, and proud, but also like it should be there. There should be a blend of the two, right? Both, like you're saying, duality. Yeah. You can feel both of those things. And I think I agree with you. This is the issue where we have like the pendulum of the like, why do American productions come up to Canada? One, tax credits, duh, because they don't pay Canadian actors very much, but also Canadian actors they bring the sun, the light, the joy to a production. Because we're so grateful to be invited to the party, which is wonderful. But again, I agree with you. It's to our detriment, where they're now relying on it so much to be like, oh, we'll just go up there and we'll give those like darting, tootin' Canadian actors a couple lines. We know they're going to come onto set and just be pure joy emanating from them. But I think we're getting taken advantage of. I don't think we should stop being pure joy because that's what makes this less of a dumpster fire. But I think they are doing that knowing they can take advantage.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, it's knowing our worth and the actors that are able to walk that great line of being grateful and knowing that their worth is or knowing that they deserve to be there. I've actually seen that exemplified by like a bunch of really well-known older American actors. And one of, like, I got a chance to my first ever gig at the Christmas Chronicles. I got to spend three days with Kurt Russell, and he was not afraid to show the work. I mean, he was out there smoking a cigarette dressed as Santa, and he'd be pacing up and down going over his lines, and I'm like, her theater school child used to do that, like, you know. And he's like, so there's no vanity there. And when I went up to him and I spoke to him and I thanked him for his work, and especially in The Thing, that's one of my favorite versions.
About the thing with Chris Birch.
Of course, that makes sense. Yeah, why not? It's fantastic prosthetic. Yeah, and he was open to you know, discussing that in the it was during the Winter Olympics that we were filming, and so he joined the entire crew cast and a bunch of Canadians, and he'd sit down and he'd cheer alongside the Canadians for the Canadian athletes. Like, even though everyone knew he was American, didn't have to do that, but he was like, you know, he'd be like, that was a good shot or something. It's like, how do they do that? Like, he'd say these things of like incredible things. And the other person was Shorey Agdashlu from The Expanse. I got to work several months with her on The Expanse, and she's incredible. You know, I got to have lunch with her. She gave me her email address to stay in touch, and you know, we shouldn't like generalize or anything. Obviously, we're not, but there's proof even within American actors they can find that good balance of gratitude, openness, you know, welcoming, that welcoming aura, and like confidence and surety. So if they, you know, and yes, again, these are experienced actors, but if they can pull that off, like, we can too, you know, because we're just as human as they are. So that's what we should be working towards and striving towards.
It's interesting because I see this in the medical world as well too, and it's probably in every field, right? Where the people who I admire the most are the ones who are constantly wanting to learn and express their excitement about, like, ooh, that's interesting. Tell me more about what you know, and asking questions and being curious and recognizing that they don't know all. Where I think there's all, and I think that comes with experience. And in the medical field, at least, I see, and I know I'm guilty of it too, of feeling like I can't show that I don't know something because people are going to be like, oh, she doesn't know. She's not supposed to be here. Imposter syndrome.
Wow.
Correct. That is an imposter. Where it's the opposite, right? Like, I think the people who I admire the most are the ones who recognize that they need to learn things and they're working on their lines and stuff. But it's a weird, I think it's the weird feeling of, no, I need to show that, like, yeah. Somebody says, okay, Janet, do the take like this. And even if I have no comprehension of what they just said, I'm going to be like, yeah. Like, why do we do that? Why is it so hard for us to be like, wait, hold on. Can you clarify that for me? It's like, we just want to be so agreeable. Yeah.
I think, you know, there are, when we train, we always hear that 3 takes and you're done. Or they're always on a tight schedule. You hear these things, and that somehow finds its way into the back of the mind. All these, you know, I gave a specific example of like tight schedule, 3 takes, but it could be whatever else, right? And those thoughts kind of find their way in the back of your mind, and they sort of sit down and they make themselves very comfortable. And in a way, they are the puppeteers to our decisions that we make somehow sometimes. But I think maybe the way to combat that is to find ways to be immensely comfortable on set, because it's been a rare case of me showing up to set and immediately being put in front of a camera. You know, I do get a couple hours generally after wardrobe and hair and makeup is done to kind of grab a snack, walk around, talk to people if possible, right? And if you have that time, then you want your work. If this is your office for the day, even if you're a day player, right? So get comfortable, make it a space where you can do the best work you can, however you can, without imposing on anyone. Whether it be like you're just limbering up and doing like, maybe you don't get into wardrobe right away, but you just start doing yoga outside your trailer, weather permitting or whatever, and let everyone see. I don't know, maybe movement is what gets you into the space, or maybe you go and you chat up the craft people, or you chat up like a PA that's not too busy or not busy, that sort of thing. And you find those inroads, and maybe that's a way to kind of break down the sort of mental blocks that we have, and actually listen not only to the director but also to what you need. Of like, hold on, I know I need clarification. Okay. And even like, and there's a bit of forgiveness too for yourself to say like, oh, I need yeah, I could do that, like, yeah, I know what you're saying, and then to immediately think like, what the hell were they saying, and then just be like, don't worry, like, even though you said yes, it's okay, like, they didn't call rolling already, so go up right now and just ask for a little bit of clarification, or just say, can you repeat that one more time? Sorry, I just need to hear it one more time. And something might click the second time, or you might come up with a more specific question as to what kind of clarification you need. But giving yourself that chance, like inviting yourself to be comfortable in the space.
I like that. And I think the tricky thing, again, I think we were talking about before, is as like, especially as Canadians, right? We just feel like we're just so excited and feel so grateful to be invited to this party that we were never really invited to in the first place. We were kind of the like pity invite, and so I just don't want to take up space here, and it's like, but where the American actors are like, no, I'm crashing this party, like I'm meant to be here, and you're like, god damn. But yeah, I agree with you. I think finding that happy medium that like works for you, I think, again, like pendulum is so far swung over to this side for Canada and so far that side for America. So it's finding that happy medium of what drives you as an individual to like understand and give the best work, but also still being you as a human being who, for the most part, like you were saying, people are good. Remembering that.
And also, if we want to take this into a bit of a meta approach to like the medium that we work in, is like, who doesn't like the go-getter little person that like makes it to the big party and is like trying their best to like make connections with people, and also at the same time uplift the project as a whole, right?
Yes.
Like, with their performance and their talent, their skill. And if you like, so I don't know, if maybe you gotta do the strangest thing and be like, all right, let's pretend there are aliens watching Earth as a TV show, and it's my episode right now, and I just got invited to set, and they're gonna see that archetype, that spunky little guy who's out there like hustling and making moves and making friends and enjoying, like, being a part of it. Like, people like those characters. People like characters that are enjoying life.
Yeah.
So who knows? Just trick yourself into playing that character outside of playing the character. I don't know.
Well, I think that's great. That's great advice, right? Is remembering what our role is here, and again, it comes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning. Here's a big, huge group project. Your role is to make this project better.
Yes.
And yeah, absolutely. And yeah. Do you have any favorite on-set moments?
Yeah, so Christmas Chronicles. There was one, my first ever non-commercial gig. So this is my first ever narrative gig. It's a movie for Netflix, which was with Kurt Russell. It was fantastic. Worked with a great Canadian actor named Tony Napo as well. And I was so excited. 3 nights of shooting in February. So, and somehow they only got to my scene at like 3:30 in the morning, in these nights. It was at a bar near Islington Station, and I'm out there, they kept me very warm. It was awesome, like huge jacket, like really took care of me, which was really, really lovely. And but the thing is, when it came to my scene and I was saying my lines, my lips were cold. And I couldn't enunciate, and I couldn't move. And I'd say, I think I would, in my head, I feel like I'm saying my lines, but the director would be like, all right, cut, cool. Chai, can you just enunciate a little bit more? And we do another take, cut. Okay, Chai, still can't hear you too well. Take a minute, just warm those lips up, and let's keep it moving. And so I'm doing the usual warm thing where I'm like, you know, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm kind of like going like this with my hands closed, obviously. And like breathing in like the hot air to try and warm them up. And then another thing to do was like I started making faces, like really an exaggerating from my lips. And to try and get blood flow to the lips. But the thing is, there's a huge crew, so I didn't have a place to turn and do it privately because wherever I turned to do my exaggerated face thing, I was doing it to someone. And no wonder no one sat with me at lunch. Because I saw this kid like for 3 days doing the same freaking faces.
So
Anyway.
contributed to the group project.
Yeah, I just tried. This is my contribution. Don't mind me. Like, just yeah, it was really funny. Got the scene. It was a lot of fun to do, and yeah, so I love that moment there, and I think also that's what kind of sets this apart from so many other careers. Hey, you can talk to, maybe there's a similar experience in the medical industry as well, but we pull stuff out of thin air sometimes to solve a problem.
Oh yeah, I love the MacGyvering of this industry.
Yeah, and that keeps every day fresh. That keeps, you don't go back to the same cubicle, the same desk. That's what I wanted to avoid.
Yeah,
every day, which is a gift.
Totally. Do you have anything you are looking forward to coming up?
Yeah, a couple of things. I have, well, so one of my side passions that keeps me, like, it's kept me going during like really dry times in this industry is Dungeons and Dragons, because it's very acting adjacent, storytelling. It's character driven. It's improv. It's collaborative. It's a group project, and so I've had a campaign going for 5 years now.
Oh my God!
After week after week, and I'm so happy and so thankful to all my players out there.
You're the DM?
I will be watching this. I'm the DM, yeah. And some of them are actors. Some of them are great actors. Like, they're the ones that are actors are all great actors.
Yeah.
But we got like dentists, and we got like planetary scientists that are also part of the group. It's a big group of 9 people. Yeah, it's fantastic. But we're in the end game now. We're in the home stretch. 5 years culminating to this final adventure, and I am so excited to see where they go. All the heartache I can put them through as I craft the story, the emotional toes, the highs as well, the letting them be on cloud 9 for how badass their character can be and all that stuff. So very excited for that coming up. The other thing too, I'm getting back into drumming. I lived in an apartment for the last 8 to 10 years and couldn't really drum on my acoustic because I just had an acoustic kit. And drumming is so beautiful. It's so wonderful. It's kind of like music, like playing a musical instrument. You see like these really big guys, like really buff, rough looking guys, and they pick up a guitar, and then you like just see the soul come out, and they like start moving differently, and you see like the really fluffy side. And then drumming, you see like really petite girls, like, and they let the monster loose behind the kit, right? And they just like, they're like beating things, and they're doing fantastic, kicking ass. And so I feel like I close my eyes, and whether I'm playing reggae or whether I'm playing metal, like anything, anything in between, I'm just in my own world. I don't care how I look. I don't care like how I'm expressing myself. And so, excited to get back into drumming and seeing what that opens up for me again after like a decade.
Oh, I love that. As someone who started playing D&D during COVID, I, again, just love it so much and knew I would. I mean, because again, it's like you're saying, it's improv, it's pure nerdery, it's acting, it's
oh my gosh,
it's people who are just so passionate about it. And it's funny, like I remember when D&D became a thing, and it was like people who play Dungeons and Dragons are like devil worshippers. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the satanic
panic. Oh my gosh, it makes me laugh so much because like
now
look who does this. Like the most joy-filled human nerds.
Yep. And everyone that actually knows about D&D is actually you're killing devils. You're not summoning devils. Yeah. The whole point is to kick down doors, kick a bad guy's butt, and steal all their loot.
And just like be creative and come out of like the drudgery that is this world. And it's funny, I look back like, why did we have such satanic panic about D&D? And you're like, probably because everyone was like, no fun allowed. This
Yeah,
is
yeah,
the
no,
90s. Like,
yeah, get out of
it's
here.
how am I to
Absolutely.
have fun,
No, you have to work and
work,
I
and
don't know.
contribute to capitalism.
Yeah, there you go. To where we are today. Yeah, as a child in the 90s. But let's get you into a game then, because we play online.
I would
We have
love
people
that.
from
I've
all over.
only played online because again, it was the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm not
And-
in any campaigns right now, but would love to. Would love
Well,
to.
we'll get you in for like a cameo session.
All I
You want?
want, I tried playing, and I don't know the lore. My sister knows everything about D&D,
Oh, perfect.
everything. Where I tried to play a character with magic, and it was so overwhelming. I'm like, no, I'm going back to my Dragonborn Barbarian, where I just things.
My first character was a Dragonborn fighter, also good at Smash. Yeah, Dragonborn Barbarian, let's do it. We'll give you know what we'll do? We'll give you magic items, so you'll be able to do a little bit of magic, but it'll be like
I just
little
want to
controlled
be in my
studios.
rage.
Yeah, just like every drummer.
I was thinking that. I was like, oh yeah. I remember when I picked that character, the DM who's it was all doctors who were playing was like,
Oh yeah.
you're what? Okay, Janet. I think you might need to go see a therapist. Like, no.
This
I'm doing
is my
great.
therapy. Yeah, this is so cathartic to me. Yeah, let me squash that goblin right now.
Clear it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Wow.
Oh god.
Good. I'm so glad. I'm such a pusher. Some people push drugs. I push
You
everything.
pushed Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
You satanic panic.
I had two nieces now. They're both gonna learn.
Oh, I
As
love
long as I'm in their lives.
I
They're
love
like-
that.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
Yeah, we need more women in it too.
100%.
Which is-
100%. Yeah. Well, give my sister in. I think she's been in some
Yes.
campaigns for like years, like you as well.
Oh, wow.
But she's always looking for more.
Yeah, I'd love to meet her,
stuff.
and
Yeah.
then we'll bring her in.
Totally.
I'll meet her through when you come in. We'll bring your sister
Oh my
in at the same
God.
time.
And she's so good at like doing voices.
Yes, I know. That's the thing. That's the thing about like if non-actors are watching this episode, or you are an actor and you're playing D&D, but you're so like you don't want to do voices. The trick to doing voices, Matt Mercer said this, who's a great celebrity DM, is that you have to be willing to look like an idiot.
Totally.
That's totally fine. This is a made-up world.
Yeah.
And we're all made-up characters.
Yeah.
Just look like an idiot. It's okay. It's okay if your British accent ends up going Russian. Well, now he's Russian. That's fine. Or you just like cough and be like,
I'm sorry, that was not what I meant to do. All right, I'm back. Okay, good.
It's
like
a
you're stuck-
freedom, right? Like to be around people who are just so, again, entertainment industry to the fullest, right? Like the freedom and the ability to create and hopefully be a consummate learner and ask questions and fuck around and just enjoy it. Yeah, I love that. Do you have any final words of wisdom or advice?
Yeah, I've got a couple. One that would relate to D&D real quick is the condensed version. Find that passionate thing. Like I said, D&D like carried me through times when the dry spells in my career carried me through that. Passionate. That's sort of acting adjacent. Something that like fuels the fire or revs the engine of your acting, basically, and something that isn't reading acting books, taking classes, and watching movies and TV, because we all do that. That's like the standard stuff. But something else, even if it's painting and somehow it relates to you and acting, but to find that, and do it even when things are good. Have a system of doing it and see how that changes how you approach this activity. The other thing would be too is, so I'm reading Stoic philosophy. I've been reading Stoic philosophy for a little while now, and it's not like there's Stoicism, which is about you building internal character, and really like it's all about your character, like not for an actor, meaning like as a human, is your character like building who you are as a human being. That kind of character is what I mean. And then I've noticed now the last few years, Stoicism has been taken by the bros of the internet, if you know what I mean, and turned into broicism, which is not the same thing. There are elements. One element that, again, touches on the advice I want to give, which is control your controllables. And just that. Don't worry. Don't put unnecessary thought on whether you'll get that audition after you've sent that in the self-tape. Yeah, it's a great role, I know. And it's hard. This is a hard practice. You got to do it for both roles, like auditions where you're like, I shit the bed with that performance. I've sent it in, shit. Like, you know, but it's out of your hands now. It's sent in, it's out of your hands. And just say to yourself, okay, the next time that casting director sees me, I'm going to double down and do an amazing job. Because that's what you can control, like how you do your performance, right? And then it happens too, you'll start thinking this kind of stuff, even if you do a killer performance for for a role that you want to get. And you'll be like, I sent in myself there, I really want that role, please, please. And you wake up every morning, maybe you check your phone all the time. Like every time you get an email notification, you open up your phone to see if it's from your agent or whatever. Even that, let that slide. It's out of your hands whether you get it or not, right? And you might not get it for like a absolutely laughable reason. So control your controllables, and again, this extends to the rest of your life, whether it be relationships or, you know, with whoever or your job or anything like that. Just focus on what you can do, and don't put any more thought than necessary for an outcome that's out of your hands, basically.
Thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you, Chai, for being my guest this week. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule running D&D campaigns to chat with me and with my listeners. I so appreciate you. You are just, oh my gosh, I absolutely loved our conversation. You were absolutely fascinating. Thank you again. And I hope you all will tune in next week for another episode of Second Act Actors. Bye.